sister just turned down her boyfriend's marriage proposal because he wanted her to stop being my caretaker because I am disabled. But I implored her to choose him. I am a disabled 21-year-old boy who lives with my 27-year-old sister. I have been a paraplegic since I was a child as a result of an accident. Our surviving parent, our father, is quite elderly and ill. He lives in an old people's home, and my sister periodically takes me to see him. My sister is very much my full-time caregiver. She has her own job, and she works to support both of us. When she's not working, she normally looks after me. She has had a serious boyfriend for 9 years. They had been in a relationship since she was 18. As far as I know, the relationship has always been very serious. He's a kind man who's always been courteous to me. He's also not afraid to offer financial assistance from time to time. I know my sister has always wanted to marry. We've talked about it a lot since we were youngsters. We did pretend weddings, and she would constantly envision the day she would marry. Spend hours looking at wedding outfits. Even as an adult, he would fantasize about getting married and spent a lot of time shopping at bridal gowns, discussing her dream wedding and the type of house she'd like to have. She had chosen names for the children when she was a child, and she has never changed them. So she's had a long-held desire to marry and have children. Her present boyfriend has been with her for a long time and has been so kind to her. I assumed he would always be the one to marry her. And I would be pleased for her. Finally, she'd have someone to look after her, rather than having to constantly look after me. Well, everything came crashing down. She returned home one day, a complete wreck, crying and leaking her tears all over the place. She told me they had broken up, and it was over. She was so upset, it was horrible to witness. It was like a knife in my heart to watch her crying and unhappy like that, and I felt completely helpless because all I could offer was empty words. She wouldn't tell me why, and I assumed she just didn't want to talk about it. After a few days, she still didn't want to talk about it, and she was quite distraught, sobbing a lot. I told her I'm her brother. I may be physically crippled, but my heart and mind are still totally functional, and she can talk to me about anything. She finally opened up about it, but only after much prodding. She told me that her boyfriend had proposed to her. I told her that was great. Why did they break up? She had always wanted to marry and had been waiting for years. She informed me they had discussed it, and her boyfriend wanted her to move in with him. They would find someone to care for me separately. They would still see me on occasion, but I would not pay them any visits, and my sister would no longer be my primary caregiver. My sister said she couldn't accept it, even though it was the offer her boyfriend desired. She said she couldn't accept it. They couldn't reconcile their opposing desires, and they split up. Told her she was insane. She should have chosen her boyfriend since I knew she loved him so much, and he was wild about her. She should have married. She doesn't need to be bound to me forever. She should live her own life and have her own family. She was still crying hard, and she informed me she understood she would never be able to have it. All of her childhood dreams of becoming a bride, having a wedding, and starting a family would never come true because she would be taking care of me for the rest of her life. I insisted on telling her she didn't have to take care of me forever and should have her own life. She said no. That's what she wanted, and that's how it had to be. She wouldn't have it any other way. When I insisted, she said no. That's it, she's in charge. She makes her own decisions in life and I should quit instructing her how to live it. She became angry with me, and I quickly apologized. She insisted it was fine, but I could see she was unhappy and had a nasty mood. Why does she do this to herself? I do not comprehend. Doesn't she realize I don't want her to sacrifice herself like this? Why did she abruptly abandon her 9-year-old boyfriend? She loved him, and he loved her, so why did she push him away like that? Why is she causing so much harm to herself? I don't want her to damage herself for my sake. I never asked her to make this sacrifice for herself. I told her I wouldn't mind having another caregiver for me, but she said no. It has to be her. It's her job, it's her obligation to me and our family, and she has to take care of me at all times. She wouldn't have it any other way, no matter what I tried to say. I really despise myself right now. I've never despised being disabled more than I do now. I feel like a baby, a useless animal. I feel like a ball and chain. It was like a burden, binding her down to the ground and stopping her from living her own life. All I want her to do is be happy, enjoy her life, and look beautiful on her wedding day, as she has always dreamed, rather than being stuck caring for her crippled brother. I wish I could simply die to relieve her of her burden. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't considered killing myself so she could finally be free to pursue her own life. I am not just stating it, I mean it. I know she would mourn me for a time, if not years. But after that, she'd marry and live the life she'd always desired. It may be the only way she ever experiences true happiness. I attempted to persuade her, but she appears determined to become bogged down like this. I do not comprehend. She is not being rational, and she is not looking out for her own best interests. Why does she do this? How can I convince her to prioritize herself and her own life? Please assist me out. How can I get her to think rationally? How can I persuade her to prioritize her needs over mine and focus on her life so she may live the life she's always desired rather than being shackled to me? How can I convince her of this? Please assist, I am desperate and heartbroken for her. Comment where OP has responded, we_got caught. Can you contact a social worker to act as a mediator between the two of you? So you may get the care you need while still maintaining a relationship with her, as if she were your sister rather than your caregiver? Oop, there are plenty of possibilities. I addressed it with her and informed her that I could easily locate programs that would provide a caregiver, albeit at an additional cost, so that my sister would no longer have to be my caregiver and could go live her own life. She was not interested. She is quite stubborn and determined. She seemed to have it in her head that she must be my caregiver permanently. I'm not sure why. Okay, so this is an update to my post from 2 nights ago. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who left such wonderful and heartfelt comments. It was truly fantastic of you. Thank you very much. I'm also feeling a lot better today. I have a better understanding of things and have discussed them with my sister. I appear to have been bewildered, and there was a great deal of misunderstanding in the heat of the moment. I've discussed everything with my sister, and we're both feeling a lot better and brighter today, and we agree that everything may have worked out for the better. After my sister described it to me, I realized he was not right for her, despite the fact that they had been together for a long time. I suppose the length of their relationship had given me a false idea. As my sister explained, it appears he did not say I couldn't visit at all, as I had assumed, but rather that I couldn't visit any time I wanted. They would set times and schedules for me to visit so that I wasn't always disrupting and interfering with their life. However, it appears that my sister didn't enjoy this at all. She stated she recognized her partner had an issue with me and wanted to put some distance between her and me, which she was not good with. I told her I felt she loved him, and she replied she thought so too, but she understands her priorities in life, and she is old and mature enough to know what she wants out of life and what her priorities are. I informed her that I believed she had always wanted to marry, have children, and start a family since she was a child. She explained to me that she still does, but only under particular conditions. She stated that she was a different person when she was younger, and that as she has grown older, her ideals and priorities have changed. She stated that if she does marry, it will be like what one user called as a package deal, with me also being included in the family. I would have to live with them and be a part of their family full time. She stated that if any future husband could not accept it, he could get stuffed, and she did not want him. That's basically how she feels about her now ex-boyfriend, and she claimed she is a lot more optimistic about her future. Now that he is gone, she stated that while she was with him, she was constantly unsure about the future for herself and me. But now that she's made her decision, she's certain she'll never let me go. I asked her whether this meant she would never marry. What if it means she never finds a guy who is cool with all of this and is willing to settle down with her while I am still involved? She stated that if it is the case, so be it. As she indicated, I am now her family, I exist, and I am the most important thing to her. She will not sacrifice me for a potential husband and children who do not now exist but may do in the future. She stated that my health and well-being will always be her top priority, regardless of my disability. She could hardly picture her life without it. I told her, but didn't she feel that she was drastically limiting herself by chaining herself to me? Didn't she feel that she was significantly limited her life choices and potential? She indicated that her time with me and taking care of me had helped shape her identity. Taking care of me is now a part of her personality and character. It is one of the things she strives for. I thought that was fantastic, but she stated she couldn't have it any other way. She stated that I provide her with almost as much as she does for me, if not more. I told her she was exaggerating, but she maintained it was completely factual. She added that simply looking after me and caring for me on a daily basis offers her so much joy and satisfaction that she doesn't know how she could ever live without it, and that it is far more important to her than the chance of having a spouse or children. I had trouble wrapping my head around that. I joked that I can't think it's always this much fun, especially when she's cleaning shit off my ass or something. She simply laughed and explained how anything that may appear unpleasant, disgusting, or painful on the surface may nevertheless be beautiful and cherished when viewed through the lens of love. She cited the example of a mother giving birth. After 9 months of illness and a swollen body, she had her body ripped open, blood everywhere, screaming and wailing, and the most terrible physical pain of her life. But, in the end, it's still beautiful because it's an act of love, and she goes through all of that suffering to bring someone into the world who she will love forever. So yeah, even acts like wiping feces from my ass, as filthy and repulsive as they may appear to some, is an act of love in and of itself, demonstrating how much she, as a sister, values me as her brother, and the lengths she will go to as a result of that relationship. And that, I believe, is lovely and genuine love. So I now have a whole different perspective on her and our lives. It is a lot more positive, and I no longer regard myself as a burden or a chain. She made me recognize my own worth and importance. I'm not just some crippled guy in a wheelchair who needs assistance. I'm a brother, and I give love, companionship, and worth to this great, gorgeous, kind-hearted woman that I am so pleased to name my sister. I no longer consider terminating my life because I recognize how much I am worth and how much I am to her, and how much it would hurt her if I did, and I could never bear to do so. So I just wanted to share that update with you all, because all of your extremely warm and loving responses were so encouraging. I can honestly state that, despite my physical disability, I consider myself to be gifted with love, which is the most magnificent thing in the world. I cannot imagine life without it. Thank you all very much. Next story. Boyfriend's female boss used to be his roommate, and everyone assumed they hooked up. Now she's attempting to move him across the nation against his will. Hello everyone. My partner Lee and I have been dating for 2 years. For 1 year we have been living together. He lived with a friend from work, Kim, before we moved in together. We were only 1 or 2 months into our relationship. Many of his coworkers approached me and told me about Lee and Kim's frequent hookups. This, of course, made me uneasy. And instead of acting like an adult and discussing it with him, I went drunk one night and had a breakdown. Not my finest moment, and I've apologized to both him and Kim for my actions. Lee told me that nothing had happened between them and that it was all workplace rumor. I absolutely trust him, and even if he did sleep with her, it was in the past, and he is completely dedicated to me now. After we moved in together, his contact with Kim was limited to the office and the occasional get-together with mutual acquaintances. Unfortunately, Kim was not as forgiving of my juvenile behavior. I didn't have the breakdown in front of Kim, but Lee told her about it for some reason. I wasn't happy about it, but I made an effort to take Kim out for lunch and drinks and apologize. I thought everything was fine, but obviously not. Kim has treated me horribly for the last 2 years. If we all go out to eat, she ignores me. When I start speaking, she rolls her eyes and cuts in front of me as if I'm not even there. Whatever. I got it. I try to be friendly, but I'm not her biggest fan. What has truly piqued my interest is the fact that Kim is above Lee in management and in charge of expansion. She has approached Lee several times about opening a new branch of the company in a location that is a 3-hour trip from our home. To create a new branch for this company, the person must first dwell in the new city for at least 2 years. She has put Lee's name in the running, despite the fact that he has stated unequivocally that he does not want to attend. I'm outraged, and he is too. But he doesn't see it as a criticism against me, it's simply that she wants someone experienced to open the new branch. And he has the greatest experience in the company doing it, so that could be it. But I'm not sure. I believe there is another purpose as well. After all of this, Lee still wants me to attempt to be friends with her. I've informed him that a friendship between us is just not in the cards. I've tried everything to make her like me, including throwing her surprise birthday parties, moving her into a new apartment while she returned to her home state for an emergency, and even buying her a tour of her favorite distillery, but to no avail. I am done trying. I've told him that I don't want him to break his friendship with her, but I'd like he not discuss our relationship with her, and that I'd rather not be in a room with her / have dinner with her, unless there isn't a large throng where I can pretend she's not there. I can deal with her for birthday and holiday parties, but otherwise I don't want to be around her. He's clearly hurt that we can't get along, and he constantly trying to get me to be her buddy. Apparently he still believes she needs more time to get to know me and understand how remorseful I was for a mistake I committed 2 years ago that I've worked so hard to fix. So my concern is, how can I convince Lee that Kim and I will never be friends, and that I simply do not want to be around her if I can help it? Comment where OP has responded, Scooter Magooter, how bad was the blowout? Were you yelling? Throwing things? Hitting? That could have a lot to do with why she is so cold to you. Oh, not bad. I became angry and screamed at him, but she wasn't home. I did not throw anything or hit anyone. A lot of drunken crying and yelling. So it wasn't that popular, and I didn't react to the thread, but I did read all of the responses. I thank everyone who took the time to respond and offer assistance, as well as those who DM'd me and helped me figure out the problem. So, to begin, I spoke with Lee about whether or not he had slept with her. He claimed, again, that it had never happened, and that he had no need to hide it if it had. I asked him whether Kim had a thing for him that he wasn't aware of, and he considered it and decided it could be true. I explained again why I didn't want to be her friend and how I disliked the way she treated me. He was unaware of how awful it was, so I encouraged him to make a conscious effort to be more mindful while we were together. He's extremely aloof about a lot of things, which makes me glad I made the first move in our relationship. So after a week, a couple of his coworkers invite him out to dinner. We agree, and when we arrive, Kim is there. She hugs Lee, then ignores me. I assumed Lee had missed it, until he looked at me and raised an eyebrow. Dinner continues, and Kim ignores me, rolls her eyes when I speak, or simply interrupts me. When she walked to the bathroom, Lee turned to me and said, "I definitely see it, and I'm sorry, so that was very lovely to hear." As dinner was winding down, one of Lee's co-workers stood up to make a toast. He goes on and on about Lee's hard work and how they would miss him when he moves to the new branch. I was astonished, so I simply said, "What?" Without realizing it, I spoke it out loud. Lee was equally as surprised and informed them that he had not accepted the job and did not want it. That's when Kim revealed that he was one of the top 3 choices to be eliminated. Lee was pissed. He got up to get another drink and I joined him. When he discovered that Kim had entered his name in the running, he went to the higher-ups and informed them that it was an error and that he was not interested. That means Kim must have found out and persuaded the bosses to put his name back in the race. We ended up leaving early and returning home. I told him I would support him if he wanted to attend, but he is adamantly against it. He now understands why I didn't want to be friends with her and why my assumptions about her were entirely correct. He returned to work on Monday and requested to be transferred to a new department that is not under Kim's supervision. He informed HR about Kim overstepping her boundaries, and he is considering finding a new position where he does not have to engage with her. I'm so glad he finally recognized what I saw and is done with Kim. I'm excited to see how losing her will help improve our connection in the future, and he promises to be more mindful of how his friends treat me and to respect my wishes, rather than forcing a friendship on me if I don't want it. Comments where OP has responded. Forlorn, unhappy, and confused 11. Now that your spouse has regained complete control over her, you must take precautions to protect yourself in case she reacts violently. Make sure you lock down your social media accounts and block her everywhere so she doesn't see what you're up to. Check the locks on your doors and consider adding security cameras in case she goes mad. She knows where you live. If she is his manager, she has access to a lot of your husband's personal information, such as his date of birth and possibly his social security number. Keep track of all your accounts and ensure she does not use that information to put him at risk of identity theft. It's a good thing your spouse spoke with HR. Hopefully, she won't cause too much damage at work. He must remain watchful, however, and avoid being alone with her in case she accuses him of something. I know I seem worried, but given her level of craziness, it's better to be safe than sorry. I didn't consider the potential that she would go postal, but you're right, we should be cautious and prepared for everything just in case. I might ask for security cameras that we can take with us, because we intend on relocating in a few months. I'll absolutely notify him to keep an eye on his personal belongings, and to report in with HR if he detects any changes in her conduct at work. Pan and Anna, they're ex-roommates, and she's his boss. Were they roommates or co-workers first? They joined the company at the same time and became co-workers.